The chandeliers sparkled like frozen fire above the ballroom, casting diamond light over 100 manicured hands clinking champagne flutes. Everyone was polished, posing, perfect. And me? I stood by the entrance in a tailored black suit that didn't quite scream elite, but it damn sure said I didn't crawl back. Not anymore. It had been 10 years since they erased me, her rich, polished, plastic family. 10 years since they called me a failure, packed her bags, and made her choose between me and their money. Guess what she chose? And now here I was, invited by someone, anonymous, probably out of pity or maybe malice, but that invite burned in my pocket like a loaded weapon. I had every right to be here. Then I saw her. Madison. She was at the center of the room like a queen spider in her web. Red lips, white dress, black soul. Her arm was looped around the elbow of some clean-shaven prick who looked like he was born in a yacht. She saw me the moment I stepped in. Her jaw tightened. She smirked, flicked her wrist at security. I could hear her voice even from across the room. You are not on the guest list. Her mother, Eleanor, the same woman who called me low-class trash the last time I saw her, spun around with a venomous glare and snapped. Why is this failure here? Her friends, those hollow, expensive dolls, turned their surgically perfect faces toward me, then looked through me like I was a waiter who'd spilled champagne. Invisible. Erased. I smiled. Slowly. And I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh, I'm not here for the party. I'm here for the finale. Madison's smirk twitched. That shook her. See, what they didn't know, what nobody here knew, was that I hadn't come to make a scene. I'd come because after 10 years, I finally had proof. It started 6 months ago. I wasn't even looking for revenge. I'd moved on, or so I thought. Then I got a call from a guy named Travis, a name I barely remembered, but the voice hit me like cold steel. He said, we used to work at the warehouse back then. I think you need to know something about Madison. I didn't want to know, but he sent the pictures anyway. Madison, 3 weeks after our divorce, wrapped around her boss, Eli Carrington, mid-40s, married, billionaire, the same guy who funded her family's foundation, the same guy who sponsored our wedding. Back then, I thought she was just depressed, sad, pressured by her family. But those pictures? Her smile wasn't forced. Her hands weren't confused. She was into it. I stayed up all night, scanned through old emails, receipts, her messages, ones I hadn't dared look at back then. I started seeing things. Patterns. Late-night meetings. Charity galas. Random hotel stays that didn't match up with her calendar. She was playing me long before the breakup. And now? Now I had every detail. Every time. Every place. Hell, I even had a USB full of videos, sent anonymously, that showed them together in more than one city. That night, I didn't sleep. I laughed. I actually laughed until my ribs hurt. She thought she'd broken me. That leaving me in the dust was enough. But now I was standing here, in front of her smug little throne, holding 10 years of buried fire ready to erupt. And just as she reached for the security guard's shoulder, I pulled the envelope from my pocket. One red wax seal. Her name written in calligraphy. Let me make it simple, I said, stepping closer. Either you take this, or I hand-deliver it to your current husband's lawyer. I'm sure he'll love the video titled Room 614, Charity Night. She froze. That smug look died. For the first time in a decade, Madison looked scared. And that, my friend, was better than any champagne in that room. Madison's fingers hovered in the air like she was reaching for something she couldn't grab, control, maybe. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. Her fake friends whispered behind glittering nails, glancing between me and the envelope in my hand like it was a live grenade. She took a step toward me, heels clicking like gunshots across marble. Her voice dropped to a hiss. You don't want to do this here. I didn't flinch. You should have thought of that 10 years ago. Her smile reappeared, but it was shaky, strained. That's a decade-old grudge, Damon. You think anyone cares? Everyone's moved on. You should too. Maybe, I said, my eyes narrowing. But your husband hasn't seen this. And from what I hear, his lawyers are sharks. Blood-sniffing sharks. She swallowed. I could see the shift, panic creeping up her spine like a cold hand. The security guard stepped forward. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to touch me, and you'll be on the news by midnight. I interrupted, eyes locked on Madison. You want to do this quietly? Fine. Step outside. She hesitated. Then she turned to her husband, Eli Carrington, the poster boy for old money and bad decisions, and kissed him on the cheek. Be right back, babe. Just someone from the past. His eyes barely grazed me. I was a fly on his Porsche windshield. Outside, the night air hit us like a slap. Crisp, quiet, dark. She crossed her arms tight around her white satin dress and hissed, "You're disgusting. Showing up here like some low-budget hitman." "No," I said calmly. "Hitmen get paid. I'm here for free. You think this'll make you feel better? You think you'll walk away feeling whole? You're pathetic." That was the thing about Madison. She always attacked when she was cornered. And she was definitely cornered. "I'm not here for revenge," I said. "I'm here because you buried me. You made me the villain in a story you wrote. But here's the plot twist. Your halo is cracked, princess." Her mouth opened, but I cut her off by handing her the envelope. Inside is a copy. I've got the rest in a vault. If I ever hear my name smeared again, if I see another post, another whisper, this goes viral. She stared at it like it might burn her hands. "Oh, and Madison?" I leaned in, voice ice cold. "Tell your mother if she calls me a failure again, I'll mail her the unedited version. With subtitles." Her jaw clenched so tight, I thought she might shatter a tooth. She finally yanked the envelope from my hand and stormed away like she still owned the world. But I knew the truth now. That poise. All a mask. Behind it was a woman one bad headline away from collapse. I turned to leave, but I couldn't walk fast enough. Rage was boiling inside me, sharp and bright. Images I couldn't unsee. Memories that had rewritten themselves with every lie uncovered. I thought about the nights I begged her to talk to me. The times I blamed myself. The lies she told with a straight face, tears in her eyes. How she'd whisper, "I just need space," when she was really sharing space with someone else. I thought about how she cried in court, told the judge I was unstable, unmotivated. Her family nodded along like they were in a choir. I lost everything. My home, my dignity, my confidence. She painted me as a man who couldn't keep his own wife interested. Now I realized, she was never mine to begin with. My phone buzzed. A message from Travis. Did she get the envelope? I typed back, she did. And she's shaking. That night, I didn't sleep. Again. But it wasn't like before. I didn't stare at the ceiling wondering what I could have done differently. I wasn't imagining her wrapped up in another man. No. I was finally breathing. Finally awake. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't haunted. I was armed. And this was just the beginning. I drove aimlessly for over an hour, the city lights blurring into ribbons of color as my thoughts tore through everything I thought I'd buried. My hands were clenched on the wheel so tight my knuckles had turned bone white. The images wouldn't stop playing in my head. Her smirk, her mother's contempt, the way her friends looked at me like I'd tracked mud into their cathedral of lies. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the rewriting of my existence. For 10 years, I'd been the villain in their story. The poor ex-husband. The failure. The man who couldn't keep a woman. But behind their curated Instagram perfection, there was rot. And I finally pulled the curtain back. Somewhere between 4th and 5th gear, I realized I wasn't done. I wasn't just angry. I was possessed by the truth. And now that I had it, I wasn't going to let it sit quietly on a hard drive. I parked outside my apartment, walked upstairs, and threw open the laptop. I stared at the screen for a moment, then opened the folder marked M. I had everything labeled by date, city, and file type. I had the time-stamped receipts from hotels. I had the screenshots of her messages, the photos from her charity retreats, where she wasn't alone. I had audio. God, I had audio. I hit play on one. It was her voice, muffled but unmistakable. "He thinks I'm at a yoga class. Honestly, I don't even care anymore. He's just so small. Emotionally, I mean." Then laughter. Deep, male laughter. I slammed the laptop shut. My jaw ached from how hard I was grinding my teeth. She didn't just cheat. She mocked me. She made a hobby out of it. I leaned back, exhaled, and stared at the ceiling. I wasn't sure what I was feeling anymore. Not anger. Not sadness. Something sharper. Like cold steel pressed against my ribs. This wasn't just about a broken heart. This was about being erased. I needed to confront her. Properly. No threats. No blackmail. Just the truth. Raw, violent, ugly truth. I texted her the next morning. One sentence. "We need to talk. Face to face." She replied an hour later. "Make it quick. I have a fundraiser at 6. Of course she did. She chose a coffee shop in Midtown. Neutral ground. Public. She probably thought I'd keep my voice down surrounded by strangers. She didn't know I'd stopped caring what anyone thought. When I walked in, she was already there, sunglasses on, lips painted red like a warning sign. She didn't even stand, just raised one hand in a lazy wave like she was tolerating a fan. "You have 5 minutes," she said, sipping some overpriced drink. I sat down across from her and met her gaze. "Did you ever love me? Like at all?" She blinked. "Are you serious?" "Dead." She leaned back, a slow, cruel grin spreading across her face. "We were kids, Damon. You were a phase. Something to rebel with." I stared at her. She didn't flinch. "You're proud of that?" I asked, voice low. "I'm not ashamed," she said. "You were easy, sweet, predictable, and I needed to piss off my mom." I felt something inside me snap. Not loudly, not violently. Quietly, cleanly, like a cord being cut. "I gave you everything," I said. "No," she said with a shrug. "You gave me nothing that lasted. Not money, not power, not legacy, just drama and debt." I could barely believe I'd once kissed this woman, dreamed about growing old with her. She wasn't even hiding anymore. The mask was off, and what was behind it made me sick. I stood up. She looked confused. "That's it," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "I thought I wanted closure. Turns out, I just wanted to see your face when you showed your true colors." She rolled her eyes. "You done?" "Almost," I said, tossing a USB onto the table. "Give that to your husband. Or don't. Either way, I've got 10 more copies." She stared at it like it might explode. As I walked out, I didn't feel better, but I felt lighter. She was never a mystery. I just refused to read the signs. Now, I couldn't unsee them if I tried. A week passed. I didn't hear a word from Madison. Not a text. Not a threat. Not even a fake apology. But I knew her too well to think she was done. She was calculating, not stupid. If silence was her move, it meant something bigger was coming. I just didn't expect it to come the way it did. I was sitting at my kitchen table, eating the same reheated leftovers from 3 nights ago, when I heard a knock on the door. Not a neighbor knock. A heavy, deliberate knock. The kind that carries warning in its rhythm. When I opened the door, I found 2 men in suits. One introduced himself as Peter Langston, Eli Carrington's lawyer. The other never gave his name. He just stood there, hands folded, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky. "We'd like a moment," Langston said. I stepped aside, still in a t-shirt, still chewing the last bite of cold chicken. They sat down without invitation, placed a slim folder on the table. "We're aware that you're in possession of certain sensitive material," Langston began, voice like sandpaper on silk. I nodded. "And we'd like you to destroy it. Permanently. In return, my client is willing to offer you a substantial financial settlement, along with a signed agreement that ensures neither he nor Mrs. Carrington will pursue any legal action regarding the circumstances of your discovery." I leaned back in my chair. "And if I say no?" Langston didn't flinch. "Then I'm authorized to file a cease and desist. And if that's ignored, we escalate. Lawsuits, defamation, harassment, whatever it takes to make your life very, very slow and very, very expensive." I looked at the folder. There was a check inside, already filled out. 6 figures. It was tempting. God, was it tempting. But then I thought about her voice on those recordings. The giggles. The way she said I was easy to manipulate. The way she'd used me, chewed me up, and thrown me out, and now wanted to pay me off like I was some inconvenient ex-employee. I pushed the folder back across the table. "Tell Eli I don't need his money. And tell Madison I don't need her name to destroy her. She already did that all by herself." Langston sighed, as if expecting the answer. "Very well, but you should understand, this isn't over." I smiled. "I'm counting on it." They left without another word. That night, my phone lit up. "Madison, you really think you won? You think making a scene and tossing a USB around means anything? You're still nothing. You'll always be nothing. I made you interesting." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, "You made me angry. That's far more dangerous." The next day, the first video went online. No names. No faces. Just voices, shadows, outlines. Enough to start whispers. Enough for anyone who knew to know. Within hours, I got calls. Unlisted numbers. Emails from reporters. A message from an old friend who worked in PR. "What the hell did you just drop, man?" Madison's name is all over my desk. And then the big one, Travis again. His voice was shaky. "They're panicking. Eli's pulling out of 2 major investments. Madison deleted all her socials. But the best part? Her mom called my boss trying to find you. She's furious. Like, lawsuit furious. I laughed. It was sharp and short. Good. But that night, the laugh faded. I sat in the dark, listening to her old voicemails. Back when I thought she loved me. Back when I thought we were forever. Her voice used to feel like home. Now it felt like poison. I should have deleted those messages long ago. But I kept them as reminders. Not of who she was, but of how blind I'd been. Of how easy it was for someone to fake love when they saw you as nothing more than a ladder. That realization? It burned more than the betrayal. Because deep down, I wasn't just mourning her. I was mourning me. The man I used to be. The man who believed her. Who fought for her. Who stayed even when the lies piled up like corpses. And now? Now I was just a man who learned to stop saving people who wanted to drown you. 3 days later, I woke up to pounding on my door. Not knocking, pounding. I grabbed a hoodie, heart racing, and peeked through the peephole. Madison. She looked nothing like the composed ice queen from the gala. Her hair was messy, makeup smudged, sunglasses on even though the sun hadn't fully risen. Her whole body screamed chaos. I opened the door just enough to speak. What do you want? She shoved her way in without permission, stumbling like she'd been drinking. She turned, slammed the door shut behind her, and hissed, "You need to stop. Right now." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't seem this concerned when your lawyer offered me hush money." "That was a courtesy," she snapped. "This is me telling you. If you don't stop whatever game this is, you're going to regret it." I walked past her and sat down. "You came all the way here to threaten me in person? What happened? Eli changed the locks already." Her mouth twitched. She didn't answer. That was it. The crack I needed. "What did he do?" I said slowly. "Kick you out? Pull your card? Freeze your account?" Her silence told me everything. I let it hang in the air for a few seconds before I stood up, looked her dead in the eyes. "You lied to him the way you lied to me. The only difference is, I believed it for years. He didn't make it a full week." Her voice broke then, just a little. "You don't understand what you've done." "Oh, I do," I said coldly. "I told the truth. That's all I ever needed." She stepped closer, and for the first time, I saw it. Fear. Real, raw, unfamiliar on her face. "They're going to destroy me," she whispered. "You have no idea who you're playing with. Eli's family, his circle, they don't just move on. You embarrassed him publicly, and now they're coming for you." I laughed. "Let them." She reached out like she wanted to grab my arm, but stopped herself. Her hand trembled. "You think this makes you powerful?" she said. "You're still that same broke, pathetic man from 10 years ago. You're just louder now." "Wrong," I said. 10 years ago, I thought you were the best thing that ever happened to me. Now I know you were the warning sign I ignored." Her jaw clenched. She turned to the door, then paused. "If you think this is over, you're more delusional than I thought." Then she left, and I stood in the center of my apartment, heart pounding. Not from fear, but from something else. Closure. She was unraveling. Everything she'd built on lies was cracking, and I hadn't lifted a finger. I hadn't shouted. I hadn't gotten violent. I hadn't sunk to her level. I had simply stopped being silent. But I knew Madison. She wouldn't go down quietly. That evening, I found my car windshield smashed. No note. Just shattered glass and the slow grin of familiarity. The next day, my landlord called to say someone had filed a complaint claiming I was running an illegal business from my unit. Total nonsense, but annoying. And intentional. The next evening, I got a message from a blocked number. "You think this is justice? This is just Act 1. I didn't even flinch. Because Act 2? That one was mine. I walked to my closet, pulled out a dusty box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were papers, old USBs, photos. Stuff I'd kept locked away out of pain, out of fear. Now, they were weapons. Truth has a way of cutting deeper than any blade. I started assembling it. All of it. A digital folder. One giant file. Every date, name, document. All traceable. All time-stamped. And then I clicked upload. Not to social media. To a private server. Set on a timer. She wanted war. I was done playing defense. The timer was set for 72 hours. 72 hours until everything, every file, every recording, every confession, would be emailed to 6 journalists, 2 lawyers, and 1 very bored ex-cop with a podcast about elite scandals. No passwords. No encryption. Just raw exposure. If she wanted to play God with people's reputations, I was giving her a taste of what it felt like when the mirror cracked. I didn't hear from her the first day, but I knew she saw the signal. I sent a single message with a link that simply read, tick, tock. On the second day, the calls started again. Unknown numbers. Silence on the other end. I answered them all. I wanted them to know I wasn't hiding anymore. By day 3, the silence turned to panic. At 4:37 p.m., I got a knock. Not the door this time. The window. I lived on the second floor. I grabbed the bat by my couch and yanked the curtain open. It was Madison, drenched, hair soaked, eyeliner running down her face like war paint. She looked like she'd climbed a tree or bribed someone to get her up here. Her hands were pressed to the glass, trembling. I cracked the window just an inch. "I need to talk," she gasped. "I don't think we speak the same language anymore. Please, Damon. I can't lose everything." She looked nothing like the woman who smirked at me in that ballroom. That version of her had been a ghost in a gown. This was raw flesh. Shaking, desperate. I opened the window and let her crawl in. She collapsed to the floor, soaked, breathing hard like she'd just run from something. Or someone. "You don't get it," she said, eyes wild. "They're watching me. I don't know who Eli called, but there are people outside my condo, Damon. Real people. In suits. Not from his company. You think I care? You should," she shouted. "Because you started this. You pulled the pin and tossed it into a world you don't understand. You think exposing me is going to hurt Eli? You think I was the one pulling strings?" I stared at her. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "I was their puppet. I did what I had to do to stay in that world. You think I wanted to leave you? I didn't even get a say. Your name wasn't just erased from the guest list, it was erased from my life." I stepped back, chest tight. "You're lying." "Am I?" she said, standing now, dripping water onto the floor. "Ask yourself why your apartment was bugged 2 months after we split. Ask yourself why I suddenly changed overnight. You think I wanted to marry Eli? You think I liked sneaking around with his friends? I was told to smile, to shut up, and to do what I was told or my family would be cut off. I didn't know what to say. My rage had been so white-hot, so simple. But now, it was turning gray. Not softer, just complicated. "You expect me to feel bad for you?" I said finally. "No," she whispered. "I expect you to know the truth before it's too late." I narrowed my eyes. "Too late for what?" She looked at me like a person staring at their last breath. "They're not coming for me anymore, Damon. They're coming for you." Just then, the power cut. Total silence. No lights. No hum of the fridge. Just her panicked breathing and my pounding heart. Then my phone buzzed. Blocked number. "We warned you." My blood turned to ice. I looked at her. She looked back, eyes wide. And outside, down in the alley, headlights clicked on. No engine, no movement, just waiting. I stepped away from the window, slowly, keeping my eyes on those headlights like they might charge through the wall. Madison moved too, but more like an animal caught in a trap. Nervous, twitchy. She was shaking so hard I thought she might collapse again. "They've been watching me for days," she whispered. "I don't know who they are. Eli says they're handling it. That's all he says. That's all he ever says." I opened the drawer near the kitchen and pulled out the small pistol I hadn't touched in years. Licensed, clean, still cold from the metal box I kept it in. I didn't say anything, but the way her breath caught told me she hadn't expected that. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice rising. "What I should have done a long time ago," I muttered. I pulled my phone from the counter, hands steady, and typed into the timer app connected to the upload server. Accelerate to 1 hour. No abort. 1 hour. After that, the whole digital package would explode across inboxes, cloud drives, and press servers. No turning back. She saw it and grabbed my wrist. "Are you insane? That'll get you killed. They won't just smear you. They'll make you disappear." I looked her dead in the eyes. They already tried to erase me once. A knock on the front door made us both freeze. 1, 2, 3 knocks. Not pounding. Not urgent. Precise. Deliberate. Like a metronome. A warning. I stepped toward it slowly, raising the gun just enough to be ready. "Don't," Madison whispered. "You don't know who's out there." "Exactly," I said. I crept to the peephole. Nothing. Just the hallway. Then another knock, this time from the back window. We both spun around. That one had a shadow. A man, tall, motionless. Wearing black. No face. Just standing. Madison backed into the wall, hand over her mouth. I raised the gun and moved to the window. Then my phone buzzed again. New message. No sender. You have 58 minutes. or she bleeds first. My heart stopped. I looked at her. She knew. She didn't need to read the message. She could feel it. Her knees buckled, and she slid down the wall like her bones had turned to water. They won't bluff, she whispered. They're not like you and me. They don't play games. They finish them. I'm not bluffing either, I said, walking back to the laptop. If they want to stop it, they better come themselves. Damon, please. Her voice cracked for the first time. They'll bury us both. I turned, looked at her on the floor. This woman who once laughed at my dreams, who sneered when I begged her to stay, who traded my love for a penthouse and a black card. And now she was begging me. And I wasn't sure if I felt satisfaction or sorrow. This is your world, I said. I just learned how to breathe in it. She shook her head. You're not like them. You never were. That's why I loved you. Don't. I snapped, louder than I meant. Don't you dare use that word now. Silence stretched. She didn't say it again. The lights flickered once, just a single pulse, and then everything outside went dark. The building, the street, the alley, every bulb out. A blackout. And in the silence, a soft, steady tap came from the window. Like fingertips. Or knives. I raised the gun again, walked to the glass, pulled the curtain slowly. Nothing. But there was a note, taped on the outside. Written in red marker. Final warning. Cancel the upload. Or we come in. I didn't touch it. I closed the curtain, locked the window, and turned back to the room. Madison was sobbing now, curled into herself like she was trying to disappear into her own spine. The clock on my screen ticked down, 41:02. If they wanted to stop this, they'd have to break the door down. And I was ready. The next 30 minutes crawled by like a slow drip of gasoline toward an open flame. I stayed by the laptop, gun in one hand, eyes darting from the countdown to the door, the window, back to Madison. She hadn't moved, curled up in the corner, muttering things I couldn't hear. Whatever mask she wore in the ballroom was shattered. Now she looked like the ghost of her own consequences. The lights didn't come back. The silence was a scream. 12:02. Another knock. But not the same rhythm. This one was slow, heavy boom. 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 I aimed the gun at the door. One more step, and I pull the trigger, I said out loud, just in case they were listening through the peephole, through the cracks, through the damn walls. No answer. I reached for the curtain, opened it a sliver. The man in black was gone, but something had replaced him. A box. Small. Matte. Black tape around the edges. I stared at it for 3 long seconds, then yanked the curtain shut. Madison, I said. She looked up, eyes wild and red. If this gets ugly, and it will, do you want to survive it? She didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, she nodded. Then you need to tell me everything. No more lies. No edits. No deflection. What exactly did you get yourself into? She exhaled like a balloon deflating. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Eli, he's not just money. His family, he's 3rd-generation oil. Old world rich. The kind that funds wars and wins elections. What do they want from me? Silence, she whispered. You weren't a threat until you started telling the truth. That's the one thing they can't afford. Not now. Not when his company's about to go public. I stared at her. So they're trying to cover this with blood. She nodded. Yours first. Then mine. The timer ticked past 7 o'clock. 7 minutes until every rotten truth I ever collected would detonate across inboxes, expose the affair, the manipulation, the money, the betrayal. It wouldn't kill anyone, not physically, but their power, their control, it would burn. I walked to the laptop, hand hovering over the abort key. One press, and all of it disappears. Gone. The safe route. I thought about my father. How he died, without ever seeing me get back on my feet. How I'd told him I forgave Madison years ago, just to stop him from worrying. I thought about the night I slept in my car while she posted pictures from Cabo. I thought about the way her mother looked through me like I didn't exist. And I looked back at Madison, now broken in a way I once was. But I wasn't broken anymore. The timer hit midnight. A single chime rang out from the laptop. And then silence again. She looked at me, her voice barely audible. What did you do? I didn't smile. I didn't speak. I just sat down in the chair across from her and waited. 1 minute later, my phone started vibrating. Then another call. And another. Emails. Alerts. A message from Travis. You crazy bastard. It's out. A message from an unknown number. You don't know what you've done. And then, finally, a message from Eli Carrington himself. This isn't over. I replied, yes, it is. For you. Then I blocked the number. Madison stood slowly, unsteady, staring at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. I never thought you'd do it, she said. You were always the guy who walked away. I stood too. Yeah, but you never asked what would happen if I came back. She left without another word. And for the first time in 10 years, the air didn't feel heavy in my lungs. I sat back down, the hum of the world returning outside, sirens in the distance, lights flickering back. The silence wasn't a scream anymore. It was freedom. Final note, if anyone's listening, never let someone else write your story. Because if you let them, they'll erase your name before the first chapter ends. But if you hold the pen long enough, you'll write the ending they never saw coming.